My background is basically I was raised up here in Southern California, but not in the church. So I didn't know anybody who was a Christian who would have claimed to be a Christian anyway. But I did start working as a detective in my probably my 20s. And by the time I was about 35, I started to take a look at the Bible to see if it was what people were saying about it. My wife was more interested than I was in doing something like this and going to church. And so she was the one who really thought, well, we had kids at the time. And she thought, well, should we raise our kids up in the church? Should we teach them something about God? And I thought, well, no. My wife and I had never talked really about our religious beliefs. They just were not part of they weren't on the landscape of our conversations. So I was surprised actually that she felt like once we had kids that she wanted to raise them up with something that was kind of a moral foundation. So it's very selfish if you think about our first interest in the church was really only to see, well, could it culturally provide something to help us to raise our kids? And that might have been, I think Susie, my wife, was always interested in God and knew that God exists, but she just never raised it with me. And we were together about 18 years. So we really had never talked about it. So my background, though, as a detective is what was the template that I used to examine whether or not Christianity was true, because that's really the only template I had. I mean, I suppose if I had been an academic in some other area, I might have used whatever skill set I had in that area. But the only skill set I had was evaluating eyewitness statements, and that was what I tried to do with the Gospels.
So your wife played a very important role in leading you to God.
Yeah, I think she did. Now, I don't think she would have. I'm not sure what she would have said about her own beliefs at that time. But I know that we didn't understand what the gospel was. We didn't understand what grace was. We didn't understand what the gospel message was, why Jesus would come at all, why he would die on a cross, that he was God. All these things that are the kind of the basic tenets of Christianity. Susie really didn't have any um, idea what those were. I couldn't explain them to me. We were really learning them together for the first time as we were listening to pastors teach.
At that point, what was your status? Were you an atheist or a kind of cultural Christian?
I would have said, if you asked me, and anybody who knew me would have said I was very much an atheist and was very much willing to argue with the few Christians that we had in our sphere. So I was working in an agency as a detective where there weren't a lot of Christians. And most of us would mock the Christians we met. Either we would mock the officers who we didn't have a lot of respect for. I hate to say that, but that's just the way it was. Or we would mock the citizens that would be doing crimes in our city. And then as we're taking them to jail or doing an interview, they would tell us about their religious experiences. And we would think, this is ridiculous. I mean, so yeah, I was a very vocal, kind of sarcastic, not as sarcastic, I would say, as you see today on Twitter. Okay, so if you look at social media today, the level of sarcasm is much higher than it was when 20 years ago, when I was first examining Christianity. But if we were in a conversation, you would see how sarcastic I could be.